The political rhetoric surrounding the campus protests currently sweeping the nation is already as divisive as you can imagine. The last thing we needed layered on top of that was just out and out lies about what's actually happening. But of course, it's 2024, this is America, and we have the media that we do, and thus we get our Monday Menace. A bevy of people just openly lying about one of these protests because Republicans have been focused on Columbia and they like that. But Harvard is really the one they want to talk about. And so let's turn now to Greg Abbott commenting on a Palestinian flag flying in Harvard that he is going to pretend Harvard put up in place of the US flag. So he said in response to that, Congress must never again allocate a single taxpayer dollar to Harvard. Now, if you think the idea that the administration of Harvard took down American flags and put up Palestinian flags is a little bit difficult to believe, that's because any thinking person would question that. Greg Abbott is willingly not a thinking person anymore. As you can probably see from the fact check that we're gonna show, the Palestinian flags were raised by protesters, obviously not Harvard staff. Harvard denounced it. The US flag wasn't up to be replaced. It only flies during certain hours. And over the weekend, when there was no American flag there, some of the protests put up a Palestinian flag. The flags were only briefly flown before being taken down. No aspect of this whatsoever is true. But even if it was true, I will remind you, Greg Abbott is the guy who campaigned for years, I'm gonna be the defender of free speech, specifically on college campuses, saying it shouldn't be necessary, it's in the Constitution, you have a right, but we're gonna pass a law anyway because it's so important to me. Meanwhile, if a flag is put up on an empty flagpole that he doesn't like, that college should be banned from federal assistance until the end of days. What do you think, Francesca?
I mean, it's another piece of misinformation that is spreading like wildfire and used to falsely paint these students who want an end to genocide as somehow anti-Semitic, even though so many of them are Jewish Americans and they are then being called self-hating. I mean, it is wild the amount of just bad faith stuff. And when you see someone like Greg Abbott posting that, when you see Mike Johnson going to Columbia University to use it to speak and use it as like a platform, you know that this is, that like if you still support the government of Israel at this hand, you like at this point, you are completely throwing down with the far right. And the last thing I would say is, if this were an Israeli flag, nobody would care. If it were an Israeli flag that was put up briefly, it would not even be a tweet to tweet out. It would not be a story.
And it might be a positive tweet from Greg Abbott.
It is very curious to me that this is obviously a political movement. The far right is always saying like, we're always beholden to, foreign countries and America first, but they have no problem, just like so many leading Democrats have no problem with sending billions of our taxpayer dollars, forget about Harvard, over to kill women, children, doctors, teachers, refugees in Gaza. Every 10 days on October 7th happens in Gaza. That's the number of people that are being killed is on pace with that. So like, when we're told about like, we're being gaslit about like, oh, you're beholden to a foreign government, but since when are we just completely in lockstep with literally everything that Israel does and it's okay if they take our money? Like, I'm sorry, but we need to actually be consistent here. But of course, we're talking about the right. They're never consistent about anything.
No. They don't need to be because their base does not expect them to be. By the way, though, thank you, Greg Abbott, because you have now given us an interesting tactic. If you're out there and there's like a really conservative university that you don't like, do you know what you can do? Sneak on campus, take down one of the American flags, put up a Confederate flag. They never get funding again. That's how it works, I guess. You can do that. Hell, make it more obvious. Just do the Palestinian flag. No, of course they don't actually mean this. They've never meant a single word about free speech. Look, there are a lot, I'm gonna try to catch everyone up. If you're new to following American politics, and particularly people who comment on American politics, there are a lot of things that people talk about where they basically never mean what they say. I am going to put forward that there is no topic like free speech for people lying to you about what they believe.
Yes, yes.
I don't believe a single person who has made free speech core to their ideology has ever meant it, ever.
At least after the year 1973, like after like the actual free speech movement at Berkeley, I think that's like everyone else is just being bad faith about it.
It's effectively a way to let people know I'm an a-hole. You'll figure that out in a few years. But for now, let me tell you more about my stance on free speech. That's what it means.
Yep.
Anyway, by the way, I just want to read one other tweet from Representative Randy Fine. Said, since I was a 12-year-old lower middle class kid from Kentucky, I wanted to go to Harvard. I've been proud of it my entire life. I even went twice. Today is the first day I've ever considered burning my degrees. Because a kid put up a flag over the weekend and they took it down, you're gonna burn your degrees, you goof? Again, this is the thing, like I was talking in the production meeting. They all wanna go to these elite Ivy League schools because they want to get ahead in life. They want to clerk for a Supreme Court justice or whatever. But then they have to appeal to regular right wingers. And they're like, oh yeah, we're not supposed to be elitist. I guess I hate Harvard or whatever. They don't mean it. It's like Ted Cruz demonizing going to colleges. He went to every fancy pants college that's ever existed. It's all a fake, it's a play, they're conning you. When you click the join button and become a tier 2 member, you get access to all of our weekly top 10 lists. What are you waiting for?